to order the May 31st APA Board of Directors meeting. I did get correspondence from Angie Daly. We're going to turn this off, right? Can we turn that thing off?
Till it's on. Till it's on.
Once all this hot air starts coming out of here?
That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, I got my hair cut, so,
Which one?
yeah.
Hey, I'm in the same
Thinking,
boat,
yeah,
so I
I
can
thought, it's
pick
gonna
up.
get hot next week, I better do something. That's cooler than our old work.
Okay. So thank you for turning that off. Okay, so we'll get the meeting started, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have a moment of silence for all those in the APA family who have passed, all those in the APA family who are going through struggles, and thank you for another successful year, and best for a great June 4th graduation. And we do have a quorum, and I do have 2 excused absences. I'm going to turn off the pop machine. Wow.
Now it is getting hot in here.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the agenda for the May 31st meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for May 31st.
I'll second.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Additions or deletions?
Not to say anything, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but you don't have the April financial statements on here. I don't know if that's important or not.
It absolutely is.
It's under the financial
Yeah,
report.
it's right here, under 6. Under item
It says
6.
financial.
Oh, it says financial report.
Oh,
Okay, that's
okay.
fine. That's
Yeah.
fine, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I thought I didn't have to give my report tonight, Beth, but I dashed those hopes.
I thought there was something special that we missed here, so. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All 4 with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and obviously no public comment because we have no public here this evening.
They're all on summer vacation right now.
Yeah.
Just one question, because we are voting on the new budget for this year tonight. Have we heard from our ex officio board members with regard, are we still inviting them to the meetings? And
Yes, they both have situations this evening that they're not able to attend.
okay, I did not.
They did notify.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to be clear. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes
So moved.
Second.
from our April 26th meeting. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All 4 with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. I need a motion and a second for the approval of the CEO report.
I move that we approve the May CEO report as written.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Any discussion regarding the CEO report?
I was just curious with the resignations, is that typical of a turnover you would see at the end of a school year?
Typically for us, no. A lot of the times when we have resignations, they're gonna come a little bit later in summer. But currently there are almost 4,000 jobs posted on the DOE job bank.
Yeah.
And people have been very proactive in being persistent and inviting people to apply.
But
So the resignations that are listed, the first one, Jonathan Jurgen for chemistry, his children go to Newcastle and all Henry County schools are all on the same schedule.
yeah.
So we had an opportunity there. Eric Sturgeon, he's a young father and wants to be able to have a little bit more time with his little kiddo.
Yep.
And then same with Emily Berticelli, because she's been 3/4 of time and she wants to just stay home full time right now.
Those would be hard to fill with the number of jobs that are out there.
Actually, Mr. Sturgeon, we were able to fill his position with one of our student teachers, Andy Bach. He just finished up student teaching for Mr. Stottlemyre. He fit in with APA really well. The kids really responded to him, and so we kind of lucked out on that one. Chemistry, that will be a harder one. 5-6 years ago, as the teacher shortage was really ramping up, that was a hard one. So we're looking for that. And then the school counselor, that is a ever-changing position. School counselors used to be called guidance counselors, so there's been a movement about the last 2 years. They're doing a lot more counseling than they are the guidance part. We've had a couple of non-traditional applicants who are counselors that are licensed mental health professionals, but we also need to find someone that's got that school scheduling and graduation pathway. So trying to find someone that we can either fit that ready-made or that we can train and get into that vein. So the other, we have a retirement, Deb Dietrich, who has been teaching almost as long as I've been alive. She's amazing. She has decided that she's gonna officially hang it up, but hang out and still do our volleyball book and CPR certifications and all those things. So we do have her position posted for kind of a health position, trying to probably come up with a couple creative solutions to balance that.
One of the things we did talk about is any administration hires really should be brought to the board according to our bylaws, and we're going to pay close attention to that going forward. Is there any update on the finance under the audits? It says they were still in process as of 5/27. I know yesterday was a holiday and today's just one day. Do we have any updates on that?
They are still in process. They sent me an email. They requested a few more documents, and so that is part of my workflow this week, is to work on getting the documents that they need for that. But I think they are finished now over at Bookkeeping Plus, as much as they can be for that. So that's with that. As far as our reimbursement audits go, we are still in that process and will be probably for a few months. They're doing that for every reimbursement we do with Title I, ESSER 2, 3, and ESSER 1, but we've expensed ESSER 1 at this point.
And I just want to talk and make it for part of the record for the meetings. I want to talk about the Air Force JROTC. There have been some changes at the high level with the Air Force. We had Major Atkins originally, and then is it Major Maldonado?
We had Major Maldonado, now we have Major Atkins.
Right, but Atkins was part of it prior to Maldonado.
Quite a few years ago.
Yeah, and then Maldonado came in, and now we have Atkins back, which is Major Atkins has been more forthcoming with some things, so there's some discussion with regard to requirements and whatever with regard to interpretation between Maldonado and Atkins, correct? So I think we need to have a report on that coming forward, but
Now,
at this-
these names would be in connection with replacing.
No, they are headquarter personnel.
Oh, the headquarters.
These are Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we'll bring more of that to you in the report coming forward. Just so everybody knows that there have been changes. We're not sure they've been communicated. They may have been, but it's being reiterated at this meeting as part of the record that there have been some changes at that level. Did I say that properly? I hope.
So all of the documents, we went through that cycle, where we had to submit a lot of information and how we were going to do things. So is all of that settled now?
No. We go through unit evaluations on a regular basis. We were due for a unit evaluation this spring. Indiana ended up on a no-fly list due to COVID numbers, and Major Atkins is not only covering our region, he's covering another region. So by the time Indiana became a place you could travel, he was not able to get to us. Our outgoing SASE had scheduled a unit evaluation for this fall, and there will be some changes to that, and we can discuss that at another time. But we will not probably be going through that evaluation until our program is ready to, since we have new personnel coming in.
And we were supposed to have a site inspection in March.
Yes.
That's been postponed to the next
Unforeseeable future.
2 years? Is it 2 years or?
We'll find out at a later time.
Okay.
With this, I would like it noted that we were very well prepared this year for the unit evaluation. Colonel Smith and Sergeant Tidwell had done everything they needed to restore some of the programming that had been cut, or bring some of the events back that had not been done in the last couple of years. And so we felt very strongly we would have done well during that inspection. And that is a lot due to their leadership and their hard work, as well as the cadets. The current cadets that we have that have been serving in JROTC, including our 8th grade cadets, because that was a pilot this year, have done really well and worked very hard. And so it was quite disappointing to not have that unit evaluation. But
So Jill,
dealing with the military.
In your report, you said our unit evaluation will be pushed to the 2023-2024 year. Is that correct?
That
Is it 2
is-
years or next year?
It is, currently that is the understanding that it'll be 23, 24, but we do not fully know that as far as what date it will be or anything of that nature.
Okay. Any further discussion on the CEO report? Okay, I have a motion and a second. We'll call for the vote. All in favor of passing the report with a sign of aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, report passes. Okay. David, we'll let you start out with the financial report.
Okay. Let's see, everyone was emailed a copy. I think I sent that out sometime Monday morning. Because of the holidays, I doubt if anybody's had a chance to look at it. I think right at the top of your package of materials, I think I saw a copy of that in there. Let's see, starting with our latest projected year end, we actually have improved our net cash income. At our last meeting, we were projecting a cash net income of $37,747, and the latest one shows $124,174. And if that holds, that would leave us with ending cash of $1,797,902. all of those are very good numbers and positive. And then the next question, of course, is what caused the change there? Let's see. Well, this happens often. For example, total income, looking at the projections, we reduced that by $138,000 some dollars. And at the same time, though, total expenses were reduced by $224,689. So that happens quite often, that one will go up and then one goes down, and whichever is the greatest, that's what changes you have on your bottom line. Now, getting into a little more detail here, most of what caused our downgrade here, reduction on total income, was our food service reimbursements. We know that those were basically reduced to minimum amounts because of the two food service audits, which have long been completed. But it looks like it's taking a little bit longer, perhaps, than we would have hoped for to get those back up to a more normal level. Let's see, grants, we have $80,000 more in grants, or I'm almost wanting to call grants reimbursements, because in most cases, that's really what they are, with the exception of Innovation Grant and maybe a few other smaller ones. So that's good, that grant money is going up. E-rate was reduced then from $260,000 to $244,000. And you'll recall we've been talking about that all year, because we had not gotten any payments since that original amount back in July, and we were hoping for a big payment in June. Well, instead, we have got, I think, 3 months in a row, we have received some pretty good sums. So apparently, the payment that we got this month in April, I think it was $24,000, something like that. That's the last one that we're anticipating on receiving. So that's the story there. Now, looking at our total expenses, it's a little hard sometimes to say these things are good or bad. $161,000 of the expense reduction came in one of our favorite lines, building improvement expense. And that apparently, the interpretation of that would be that we're not anticipating those projects. We're either not going to proceed with them, or more likely, we're not going to be able to invoice them before the end of the year. Because the line called building improvements expense, anytime that you pay a bill regarding building improvements, that would be reflected there on the building improvements line. So that would be my hopefully correct interpretation of a reduction to that particular line. So it's neither good nor bad necessarily. I'm assuming that we'll be invoiced that sometime during the next school year, and then seek reimbursement for it. Grounds and security, then, we're reducing that amount by $73,000. So that's pretty much the small changes here to our latest year-end projections. Now, rolling right into the month of April, actually some of these figures I just read, you see them again taking place during the month of April. Our original budget for April showed about a $467,000 cash loss. And we were able to improve that to an actual loss of only $168,384. Let's see now, how did that happen? Okay, total income improved by $42,000, and additional. Let's see here. Trying to read my cheat sheet here. That sometimes is a challenge in and of itself. Okay, so total improvement, improved overall $42,000. We had some addition, that's right, we picked up, I think, about $60,000 additional ESSER reimbursements but that was partially offset by the fact that we've had virtually no food service reimbursements for a while. I think we maybe had 2,300 or something like that come in. Now, let's see, total expense, the big thing there was for the month of April, we had budgeted $161,000. We actually showed zero dollars being added to the building improvements. So total expense was $257,000 below budget versus an improvement in income from 42. So again, the net then shows some improvement. Now let's see. Also, grounds and security were reduced $73,000 during April. Instructional compensation actually was $22,000 below budget. Not sure why. Perhaps maybe we didn't have as much substitute expense. And coaches, ECA, and transportation was down 16. So actually, there was a lot of accounts in the expense category that were below budget for that month. Now, looking ahead then to May, we're projecting in the original budget a net cash loss of about $240,000. And in June, however, we are projecting a rather large profit of $985,000 some dollars. Now, where is that hopefully coming from? $958,000 would be ESSER 3 reimbursements, which then, to my mind, I thought, well, now Jill has alerted us that we're starting the audits of the reimbursement process, which maybe could delay these things. So we hope that we get that much in June. The point is we will get it. It may be on the next school year. So if we don't make it, no great concern there. And also we are expecting $268,000 Title I. I don't know whether to call that funds or reimbursement, maybe a combination of both. So anyhow, that's sort of a brief look at where we think we stand at the end of this year and what happened in April. So that's all I have.
So that money in June, just so everyone knows, is part of it is like some of the money that we don't know exactly when we're going to receive it. We just put it in the month of June, which is why that looks so high.
Yep.
Again, we may have some of the ESSER expenses, but we may not get that until next year, like you mentioned. But but that's why we put June always looks so much better, is because we've moved some of those that we're not sure when it's going to come through into June. But sometimes when we actually submit the reimbursement, it doesn't come in until July.
Right.
So just be aware of that. And then you mentioned on the E-rate that we had adjusted it. I think you said like 20,000 or something, 16,000. I actually only adjusted that $46. Now, we did receive a payment in July of last year, and similarly, we will probably do the same thing next year. So it still balances out our budget. But still overall, I mean, it's still it's fine, but I just want to do that clarification.
Okay,
and
so that
some of the expenses were adjusted. Again, I look at the average, and then because we're getting close to the year end, I try to get those adjusted pretty darn close as to where it's going to be. But again, we've got that revenue and expense in there for the ESSER. And then sometimes on that building maintenance improvement line that goes down is because some of those, that was a placeholder for the ESSER grant, and then the expenses are offset in another line. So, so it's a combination of balancing out, and then some things might be offset. And I still, as normally, we probably will have a higher cash balance at the end of the year because we will not have spent everything, but we will receive quite a bit of reimbursement then in the month of July of next year. But it's just a game of when it's going to come in. So just want to clarify a couple things.
Okay, so what I quoted then on the E-rate, may want to double check that. Sometimes my one eye gets on the wrong line or something there, and that may have been what happened there. Okay. I will say that I know some, especially newer board members, say, boy, that accounting is hard to follow. I'm not very good at math. Actually, it is challenging, but it doesn't have anything to do with math or arithmetic. But I have found it very tough to follow trying to track the ESSER money, because this is a cash basis, so we have to pay the bill first, which I think is when it goes into that building improvement line. And then we turn around and seek reimbursement, and then it comes in as a grant income later. So it is hard to follow, but I'm glad we have it, certainly.
It is hard to follow, but it's not only in the building improvement line. You'll see it as our expenses and supplies, you'll see it in some of our instructional expenses, you'll see it somewhere with subs, you'll see it in cleaning services. And so it's
all over.
It's all
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
place.
Literally.
Oh, you guys do a great job of staying on top of it. I'm sure it is, I know it's extremely complex, so, but we're certainly glad that we have it versus not having it.
So that kind of is a good segue into a question I have. So for this current budget year, it looks like we're going to have, and I'm rounding, we're going to have about $711,000 in teacher stipends. Okay, which is 183,000 more than the approved budget. And this is going to, and if I'm reading that right.
You're not reading it.
That sounds a little high. I can't recall the number.
Well, if I'm looking and adding stipends as to what they say, the way they're, and I may have had a bad line here. And you know what? I'm going to take that back. I think I was taking a salary number. That's because I'm just trying to read this stuff at the last minute. We do need to get these board reports out a week before the board meeting. That has to happen, because we can't be expected to come to these meetings and get this information and digest it. Okay, I'll get off my high horse. I'll back off, and I'll still say, so our teacher stipends, that number is going to be $223,000. And correct me if I'm wrong. And that's $123,000 over budget, which will, and I understand some of this is the ESSER money and some of these other things, but it'll segue a question back to our budget for next year. So, am I reading that right? That we're $123,000 over budget on teacher stipends, and can you help me understand?
The board approved $750 stipends for all employees outside of the current budget.
Which
Using
doesn't
ESSER
account
money
for
this
100%
winter.
of the stipends. Some of the stipends, because I've asked that question too. I've seemed like about 200,000, maybe 225, something like that. I added all of that up at one time. I just can't recall it precisely. But over and above that appreciation grant, you said that the stipends were given to teachers to help carry out the particular grant program that they were involved with. Is that
They were given to all employees from custodians.
right? The appreciation,
all-
yeah, that was part of the stipend.
And that was because of the struggles that they have all faced in their
Right.
current duties due to COVID.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're not warranted. We voted for them, and we did, but it just seems pretty high. So how many employees do we have that got the 750?
We had 109 employees get those.
Okay.
We also had employees, $60,000 worth of PBL stipends that were given for summer training that was included in the ESSER grant and was originally in the budget.
So that's the difference right there. It's the 750 times 109. Yeah, and I just wanted to have an explanation as to why, so I would have a better feel for it, and I'm sure you folks want to have a better feel for it too.
Well, I think in our new budget, I don't want to get into that ahead of time here.
And I've got a question when we come to that.
Yeah, so we'll just
Yeah.
wait on that. I think 60,000, I think, is the figure we had in there for, and that didn't have anything to do with a grant or an appreciation bonus.
Right, right. Yeah, and it wasn't meant to be judgmental, it was just to understand
Yeah.
what the number was. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote, all four.
Sir, we need a motion.
Oh, I thought we had a motion, sorry. We got into
I
discussion.
can't make a motion.
We
so-
got into discussion too early, so
Yeah,
thank
I got
thank
us
you
off
for the
track again here.
clarity. Okay, I need a motion to accept the financial report.
I'll move that we accept the April financial report as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Now I'll ask for any further discussion. Okay, all four with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next on the agenda, we'll go to old business. The CEO has signed their contract, and we have that signed contract, and we
Yeah.
had to make a couple of small modifications.
Yep, and Lori left it on the edge of her desk. It's done. I'll drop it here to
But you have
Jill.
photogenic memory, right? So you can
It,
probably.
there was some typos in it, that's been fixed, it's all been signed, it's all sealed and delivered except to all of you. So I'll get it, Jill, and my apologies. I do that every month, I leave it on the edge of my desk and the packet was there, but yeah, it's all approved, everything's good.
And essentially, the changes were a couple of typos with employer to employee on the front page, and then we did a modification of the sick time and vacation time to a PTO time to reflect what the rest of the employees get here. Other than that,
That's a reimbursement.
yeah, that needs to go around.
That's, you've already got it. Is there anybody who does not have the disbursement, signed the disbursement journal?
Yeah, so it was really very simple, and there were some discussion points that, some clarity on some of the payouts with regard to expenses of the CEO. And I think, Kim, you're working on some forms, some paperwork to get those taken care of. So really, we're happy to have Jill here for another 3 years. According to the contract, we are blessed to have her in the time that we did have her so far in the past. And going forward, the new board that will be taking over will also be in a very good position to have her at the helm. Any questions on the contract? We've already approved it. We already voted on it. There's no need for a vote. Okay. Okay, brings us to the 2022-2023 budget final reading.
Let's see, Beth, would you and Andrea would like to take the
So
floor?
the changes that we made, after you guys had met, we had a few adjustments. So there was a couple changes in the ESSER grant, trying to figure out where that's gonna come in, play. The E-rate, we think there's gonna be a little bit of additional funding, and that was adjusted. We feel like the CFIG grant is going to be going up, from 200 to 350,000. I mean, Jill's got confirmation on that, so that was an additional 150, almost 151,000. We took the health insurance from 10% to 6%, because we now have the rates. Like I said, we put in a little bit of salary negotiation buffer in there, and then the grant compliance position, we increased that just a little bit. The liability insurance, what happened last time, that was a question. We did increase that because we had just received, because of the cutoff of when we redid the financials, we had received a payment after that. So we put that in there and compared where we were. Then the leasehold improvements, he adjusted that a small amount, and then the hardware, we increased that about $25,000. And then there was a small increase of $2,100 on salary, and then because the contract for Jill was approved, we'd had a placeholder in there for hidden, so she didn't know where it was. But we put it on her line now that it's been noted what it is. So we did put that in there. So that really, for the most part, were the changes. Still, the net effect of the budget is positive, $66,426 of where we're coming in at the end of the year, of where we project we'll be. So there wasn't a lot of changes afterwards, but just a few here and there, and we just tried to really tweak it to be as most accurate as possible. And then we talked about, Jill put in some cushion in there for some salary negotiations, so that we have some room for that. So we may not use it, but we have it available if it's needed. So again, trying to be conservative and have most realistic of where we're going to be.
Well, I think from my viewpoint, this is the first year I think that I have a good feel for, let's say, where those buffer amounts are. And one of them, for example, would be our health insurance. And I think we originally had counted on 10%, 6%, that's good news. Now, am I correct here in, if we look at our salary summary, we are assuming, being conservative, which I proved, we're assuming that every employee is going to take, let's say, the full amount of health insurance available to them. Even though we know that I think between 50 and I think 56, I believe was, that's usually the number that actually take it. So it would appear that we've got quite a, well, let's see, the final budget, 574,000, and we're projecting 318,000. If we bump that up by 6%, I think that's about 345 something. So it looks like we've got a couple 100,000 in buffer available to us if needed. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, we do put everyone at full capacity. There are a few that we don't, but there's very few. Most of them we put in there because we anticipate worst case scenario. And like you said, that does give us a little bit of a buffer, for things that change or adjustments that come in place.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me just get my stuff. I've got a list of questions. I'll get those out of the way here. I was noticing on our special ed professional expenses, we're looking at about 181,000 this year, and we are budgeting 113,000 next year. That's a pretty good drop. I was just curious as to, are we pretty sure that we have that big fall off, or?
It is, and Beth, do you have any explanation before I jump into that?
Let me look on the P&L to see what.
That's kind of an obscure line item.
I think there was a reason why we had decreased that.
Yeah, I think that is due to the excess cost services that we've had. We've had a couple of students over the last 2 years that have had to receive more services than we can offer here, and so we had to do some of those things. Yeah, Jill had said, one of the notes in there is Jill had said because of the additional services and thinks it's going to be lower, so we did lower it due to that reason.
Okay.
Now, if there is, right now it looks like those students will be returning back to school, but if there is an additional need for those services, or something happens and they have to go back to where they were, then this IDOE offers an excess cost grant to cover that difference. Okay.
Let's see then. We've got the net health insurance. Let's see. Well, I think we have hit on the junior ROTC Currently, in our final budget, we are assuming that Smith and Tidwell are still with us, and we know that won't be the case, but we're not sure if we're going to have one by himself, Mr. Norris, or maybe two. So there could be some savings there, because the two of them together, if we take the total compensation, salary and fringes, about $195,000. Now, we have heard that, we have heard that the Air Force picks up half, is it half of their salary or half of their total compensation?
Not their salary. The Air Force picks up half of their minimum instructor pay, we call it their MIP, for 10 months.
Okay.
So anything that is above and beyond that is on APA.
Oh,
So-
okay, so like health insurance or teacher retirement or anything like that?
Right,
or-
so, and looking at Sergeant Tidwell would be one of the exceptions. For her MIP, it is not comparable to a teacher with the same years of experience as she has in JROTC. And so her compensation from APA is higher than what her MIP, in order to be equitable for the service that she provides in her years of experience. She was also on an 11th month contract because there
Yeah,
was a lot
remember
of
there was a 10 and 11.
inventory and those things, whereas Colonel Smith was on a 10-month contract. He is compensated higher because of his rank, being a commissioned officer, as well as what MIP requires. But any training or events that he worked outside of that period, he was also compensated. And so that's where some of that is.
Okay.
So Jill, will you talk about the difference between the new contract going to an 11-month contract versus the existing 10-month contract?
So right now, we only have an ASI, and that has traditionally been an APA 11th month contract because of all the work that has to be done with uniform distribution and those things. Looking at possibly with the SASE as a recruitment part was that the Air Force, even though they don't compensate for the 11th month, recommended, especially because we would be having a transition year, that it would be necessary for both to have that, which would also encompass their certified training instead of just paying someone to go to the training. Because we have now had to pay, Colonel Smith twice to attend that training, and at his daily rate, that was a larger compensation for that. But currently, right now, we only have the ASI, and the ASI, their MIP is in alignment with their years of experience that an educator would be, as well as their additional one.
Okay. Now, do they have any fringes from us? Maybe they don't
We
have.
offer, but for the most part, most of our service members, our veterans, or our reserve duty, they typically have TRICARE, so they really
don't
only
have the
get
health, yeah.
Yeah, they don't get health. They typically will pick up vision or dental or an additional, because we have life insurance for everybody. They may pick up a larger package for that, or like short-term disability or those things. But most of those, as far as dental, vision, all of those go their employee cost. So really, we're just left with retirement and tax
Yeah.
appropriate.
And because of the difficulty in recruiting people for those leadership positions, it was recommended that we may encourage a relocation bonus
Yes.
for those positions to help offset any of the concern and open up opportunities from people outside of the regional area.
Yes, Major Atkins said for some reason there's not a lot of people wanting to move to Indiana.
Oh,
I'm not sure
well, you
why.
moved from Avon to lovely Anderson, didn't you?
I did, it was worth it. It was the best choice of my life. But there are others that may not believe that, especially if you go to an East or West Coast area
Oh,
that
yeah.
may be a little The MIP matches the cost of living in those areas, so it's a little bit higher.
So as part of this budget process, this sheet that we've been handed, the United Healthcare, is it? Help me understand, it's their initial renewal proposal for the health spending account, PPO, came in at a 15% increase,
Yes.
but we're not budgeting that much, or?
No, because we negotiated them down to 6.
So, okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. So that's great. That's fabulous. Especially considering everybody else is in the 25 to 50% range.
It's been
That's-
pretty brutal.
So we, that's fabulous.
And this insurance recap has been shared with staff, so they fully understand the processes, because they've been involved, at least during my last 7 years, as you know, offering suggestions or different brokers they know or different programming they've heard. And we've really tried to explore any and every option that we would qualify for. Like I did tell them, we are going to look at going to market, doing an RFP this fall for brokers. I have no complaints about our brokers. I think they've done a phenomenal job. But there's always somebody out there that might have a new creative solution. And so we really want to get out there and see, you know, what is there, what's possible. And our benefits, you know, we've got United Healthcare. They're solid benefits. We've got in-network, that's pretty good for us. We are limited on some of the programs that we can do because of the health of our group, the size of our group, as well as the geographical location of our group. If I just went with, you know, an IU Health network, well, most of the people that live here in town aren't going to have access unless they go to Muncie and vice versa. So trying to be aware of that and make decisions that benefit everybody without costing some, you know, benefits, you know, save $2 a month, but now you're going to pay $5,000 extra. So we've tried to come through there, and we honestly, the increases that we've had to do have been single digit for the last 7 years. There was 1 year where we actually, we were proposed a 4% increase, and APA was actually able to absorb that, which is why we do the 84% contribution now, which kept us from being able to pass it on to our employees. So we've gotten as creative as we can right now, but I think it's time to see if anybody else can help us go through that. But you know, our brokers may be the best ones for continued service.
And this budget is based on 775 students, and our last number was 783.
Yes.
So we do have a little bit of a cushion there at this point. Now, does that include the e-learners at the reduced percentage at the 85%?
That's part of why we stuck with that 775. We, right now, APA Online, we don't know where our enrollment's going to be at that. We do have some that are returning, but we do not have people, we haven't had a lot of new people coming yet, but as other schools, we've gotten one new enrollee that wants APA Online. As other schools are closing down those programs, we may start to see an increase in that. I do know we have a core group of students that will remain online, whether it's for their mental health purposes or just they learn better that way. We've seen an increase in our early graduates and some accelerated learning in that platform. So, but as far as the funding structure goes, it will stay the way that it is this year at that 85%.
Yeah, so we took the number off of the 54 report, which is what we get our funding based off of, and it has the online students already calculated in there. So it's based off of what our current numbers are, and we anticipate, like she said, to be about the same. So it has been incorporated in that 775 number.
Okay, good.
I think the only other question I had, you created, I think, a new line in our budget called cleaning services. And I didn't see a compatible line this year. It was in the amount of about 115,000. Does that mean that are we using outside cleaning crew again?
We've been using an outside cleaning crew at night here at
Okay,
29th
I wasn't
Street.
sure how to interpret the fact that
Yeah,
that was a
it's
new line item.
Yeah, I think it's just how she separated out. We did the same thing this year.
Okay, so really no change, because I think our staffing was the same as,
Yeah. If you'll recall, this summer, we had some questions because we had people on FML leave for the family medical leave. And so we weren't certain when they were returning, if they were
No,
returning.
yeah.
And because we were pandemicking and all of that, we went ahead and brought Warren's cleaning in a couple days a week. And they've done a really great job and helped our current crew. This has been a tough staffing year. A lot of our staff have been going through some personal physical struggles, physical health situations. And so we've had a lot more PTO used for some of those critical functions just due to stuff that beyond their control. And so that has helped us fill that gap and make sure that we are providing the environment we need to. So right now, most of our crew is all healthy again, so we're fingers crossed
yes,
that we're working through
keep
that
it
stuff.
that way.
Hey, David, the comparable
Yes.
line you're talking about is in line 202 on the cash flow. It's called professional services, and you'll see that account numbers in there. It is a little bit over budgeted this year, but we've accounted for that in next year.
Okay,
So you know where you can compare your number to.
right.
Yeah, and for
Okay.
this year, it's been an ESSER expense.
Yeah. Well, I think I said last meeting, again, I think that starting with the budget draft back in March, I think that was maybe the most complete for a first draft, because we've really had very few changes. In fact, some of the changes are just because things are happening between now or then and now. So I congratulate all of you on the budget work there. Every year, I think we're getting a little bit more precise, and I know each year I think, like I've said before, every meeting I learned something I didn't know about how APA operates in terms of the numbers and the financials. So some of our questions, we're not trying to, we're not looking for a confrontation or anything. It's just we're seeking to understand some of the accounting here so that we can, it's good, if you have board members that actually know, sort of half know what's going on here, so.
I love the questions. I think it's great.
Oh, do you? Okay, well.
It's quite complex.
It doesn't bother me in the least. I prefer that you look at it and feel good about it. I think that's very good.
Yep.
Yeah, and Dave, I will say, in one of your, I think it was on page 2 of your notes, you talked about the difference between E-rate on the 21-22 year versus the 22-23. Part of why this year was that much higher is because we had a one-time grant from them for an expansive project that we did.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be looking at, like, this summer, we're actually updating all of our wireless access points, which is about a $100,000 project, but they're paying 80% of it, so we're on the hook for 20. So that's kind of why that difference is there.
Yeah.
I think it was ECF, they did some extra COVID relief funds, so we took it and ran. Some of those are starting to dry up now. So.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 2022-2023 budget final reading.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. I will ask for any further discussion. Hearing none, I will congratulate all of those that were interested in all the work that you put in, all the interested parties, and I will call for the vote. All for approving the final budget for the 2022-2023 school year with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, good job, gang. Okay. You are dismissed.
Thank you.
Excused, dismissed,
That's okay.
thanked, whatever you want to call it. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
See ya.
you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. And Ryan, you want to make a proposal for some streaming equipment?
Yep, I do, and let me hand these out, pass those around. I made a copy of this just to highlight what I was proposing. I think it makes it a little more clear to see the visual. In a nutshell, I was looking back on what we've done so far with the YouTube streaming, and we are a year into this, and it's been a real learning experience for sure. There's been some real challenges. The room, of course, is one issue. Sometimes one of the key things that I learned this year is that while none of it's easy, the audio is a much bigger challenge than the video. And as you can see, if you notice, looking back over the past streams, if you were to look at them, you would see that each one kind of has more microphones appearing, so they multiply. And in the end, it really is best for everybody to have their own mic. But we'll get to that. Just want to cover a couple quick points. Right now, this is our 11th stream. Our average views are 41 per meeting. The trend has been increasing. Tonight I noticed not a lot watching tonight, but got a handful, so I appreciate that. And audio has consistently been our biggest challenge. So what I'm proposing here is a system where you would have 8 wireless mics that would be set up in front of each person. So they're small, they're gooseneck mics, so it'd be much smaller visually, better, more professional appearance in my opinion. And then 4 of the lapel mics, essentially. It says headset/lapel. You don't have to wear a headset. That's just an option. It would be lapel mics. So that's the second item. The third is the actual interface, and that's kind of important because everything you see here can be done away with two rack mount wireless setups and 2 cords that come out and plug into a small box. And then that's one USB going into the computer. And so what that leads to is portability. It also allows for people to take over the streaming. So at some point in the future, if, by design, I always intended for somebody else to eventually take it over. Not that I'm going anywhere, but just saying that my intent was to make this turnkey so somebody could just turn it on and do it. So it wasn't a big production. So all of these things will allow for that. So what it'll boil it down to is that it would be mics that you don't have to run cables, so no cables. Mics in front of each person, so everybody gets their own mic, every single person. Wireless for people presenting to the board, so if they're walking around or whatever, we get all that audio, which has been a real challenge in this room, especially if somebody's way over here or something. So anyways, and it like I said, it's more professional appearance. And then the last item on the last page is this actual case for that. The case would be, arguably optional, but it'd be a good option because what that would do is you can put the 2 rack mounts inside that, and then you can close the ends. It's completely portable. So if you want to use this system somewhere else, you can just pick it up and carry it somewhere else. It would plug into the PA in the gym, for example. It's all standard PA equipment. The PA equipment is not computer equipment per se. The interface that plugs into the computer is, but the rest of it is just standard audio equipment. And so the total on all those is 660 if you add them all together. So what I'm suggesting is to spend the whole 660 and get that set up.
So if I'm reading this, this is not one at $270. This is that whole package
Yeah.
on this first group of, for $270. Okay.
The 8 mics,
What's that?
with the 8 mics.
Yeah, it's 8 mics. So we'd have, in the end, we'd have 12 total. We have 8 on the desk and
Okay.
4 lapel.
We talked about when we first got here that we might be going back to our smaller boardroom,
Right.
which will probably seem very strange. We're getting used to this,
Right.
the wide open area here. The size of the room, does that have any impact on this?
Well, I mean, you can probably get by with fewer mics technically in a smaller room, but
Mhm.
the thing is that, you know, it's a quality concern as much as anything else where, you know, if you have, say, every other person, for example, or something, or just one center mic in the middle, you get a lot of variation in volume. And then an added bonus to this, if it were necessary in that room, you could actually mic that as well if there's any hearing difficulty in the room, like for people who sit in the audience, so to speak. Because I had only attended a couple board meetings in that room in the past, but it seems like that I was having a hard time hearing, if I remember. And the thing is that with this system, you could take that and run it through, I didn't put it in the quote here, but you could take that and also run that through simultaneously a small, you know, PA or just an amped speaker in addition to stream it out to the internet. So, so with all that said, I think it is still really a necessary thing even in the smaller room because we could make sure everybody who's present can hear very clearly and make sure everybody online hears very clearly.
So the board needs to entertain a motion to accept the proposal.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal for the new audio equipment.
I'll be happy to second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
What we may need is some kind of mic that actually makes our voices sound better than they are. I'm often accused of affecting a Texas accent, I think, I've heard some say. So.
We could get a rack mount EQ, you probably.
But it's not magic, I guess, is it?
I like the concept of it being very portable to be used at different events. Because I know in the gym it can get very, very echoey and some of the dynamics within the gym and even outside.
Right, yeah.
But we're a big operation now and everything is becoming more high-tech, so we need to keep up with these things. No time for amateur hour anymore.
That's right.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All four with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so how do we go about purchasing this? Is this,
He'll send me the links and then we'll get it purchased.
okay?
All Amazon.
So as part of this process, as we move forward with, you know, having these meetings streamed, I know we have nameplates somewhere. I don't know if we have nameplates for everybody, but those really would be beneficial for our audience to have those at these meetings. So I don't know who's in charge or who can be in charge of those going forward, but it would behoove us to get those out in front so people can see, people who are streaming can see who the
Well,
board
see,
members are.
we're usually the first two here. Well, Mike actually beat all of us. He came directly from Brown County, I think. I can go to the old boardroom and get those. I assume they're still there.
They are. We need to update them with new board members.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sure there's at least two, maybe four who don't have the plates.
Cool, thanks. Okay. All right, we'll We'll move on to discussion. You want to talk about the board training retreat?
So we are looking at July, it looks like, because he sold out of his positions for June. And I did not confirm any July Saturdays till I checked with all of you to see maybe what doesn't work in July on a Saturday, so I can get back with him.
Did you get responses from everybody?
No, I'm just now putting
Okay.
it out there.
I have nothing planned for July.
Is there a time when you can't do it in July, a Saturday when you can?
I cannot the last weekend, 29th, 30th.
I can't give a time because we have a whole lot of stuff going on in July and August, so.
Just maybe not.
It's, the dates I'm available, I will be here.
Okay. Anybody else?
We're trying to negotiate a lot of dates right now.
I know.
No, I'm pretty much open.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I can do any.
I'll call him tomorrow and then get an email out to everybody. So
Okay.
we can host it, you're welcome to my house, or we can host it at Purdue in a classroom and feed you or whatever, so you can decide that.
Now, will we be picking up then where I think we ended somewhat abruptly, the first one. Will we be trying to pick up right where we left off
Yeah,
then,
he
or-
wants to see what progress we've made, what forms and policies we've implemented, some takeaways from the first session, and then take us into the final stretch there. Probably be another 8 to 3 kind of scenario.
And I'll remind everybody that we will have elections in our August meeting. And we usually do those elections from the floor. We have not ever had an election committee. So those come from the floor. The parameters are, A, you can nominate yourself. B, you can nominate a person for that position. You are not allowed to nominate more than one person for that position. We will not be nominating as a slate. They need to be nominated individually. And I'd encourage you to talk to your fellow board members to see who's interested. If you have no interest, please share that with your fellow board members so that as we move forward, we don't try to nominate somebody who's not interested in serving. And just kind of talk about it among yourselves. We will follow Robert's Rules of Orders for the nomination process and the election process. And when those elections take place in the August meeting, we will swear in the new board members. They will be allowed to vote, and the outgoing board members will step back, and the new elected officials for this board of directors will take over the August meeting.
I
Any
heard it was
questions?
a four-way, there are 4 of them fighting over who's going to be the president.
That's a good problem to have.
So, sounds good. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Need a motion for adjournment?
I mean, we adjourn at 7:15.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, all 4 with the sign of aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We do have a brief executive session, so we'll come back in 5 minutes.
Very brief.
Very brief.
The executive session